Thank you very much for inviting me. I was listening to the previous guests, and really, I have very little to add, if anything. I think that
Actually, if you don't mind my interrupting, I meant to say earlier that a lot of speakers would particularly like you to discuss what has been happening over the last week with the so-called peace plan. So you do have perhaps something to add, but go ahead.
I think, again, I heard our colleagues and friends speak about the peace plan. I think the first and foremost thing that I have to point out, which is a repetition of what everyone else has or many others have already said, is that the world has changed dramatically over the last couple of years. And this is something that I think people like myself never expected to happen, at least in my lifetime, where there's such a sea change in public view and about how the public views, both in the West and in the rest of the world, how it views Palestine and how it views Zionism and how it views the role that the West is playing in our part of the world. This, I think, is the most important defeat that the empire has been forced to accept. Even Trump, in a statement attributed to him, said that Netanyahu went too far, that Israel has become marginalized. I haven't seen him say it himself, but I've read that he said that the Israeli regime has become isolated, and that he is going to bring things back to normal, which of course is impossible for him to do, both because he has no credibility, but also because that genocidal regimes cannot be rehabilitated. But it does show that even Trump, with all his ignorance and his shallow thinking, recognizes the situation or the plight that the Israeli regime is in. And that is because of global awareness. So these 2 years have been very painful. Hundreds of thousands of people have been massacred, mostly in Gaza, but also in Lebanon and Yemen and elsewhere, and of course in Iran too. All of those countries that have been a part of the Axis have paid a heavy price. But I think that it's clear that the regime losing face in this way and being delegitimized in the eyes of the international community is enormous. And it is big, it is huge, and it is unprecedented for us. So we have to build on this, and we have to continue creating awareness. We have to especially work harder on Jewish communities across the world, because they are the ones who the regime and Zionists are focusing on the most to preserve. So we have to create greater awareness in general, but I think it's time, especially for our friends in Europe and North America, to focus on young Jews and end the brainwashing of Zionism. In recent days, we saw, of course, Trump's threats, and then the resistance groups' response, led by, of course, Hamas, but also Islamic Jihad, has said that they support the Hamas position. Hezbollah has also said it supports the Hamas position. Ansarullah in Yemen has also supported the Hamas position. And of course, Iran will always support the Hamas position and the Ansarullah position, the Hezbollah position, and the Islamic Jihad position. What is clear is that Trump wanted this so-called peace proposal to be imposed on the people of Gaza and to force capitulation and defeat on the Palestinian people through threats and through threatening the entire population with complete annihilation, which is, of course, something that is no longer strange. After the genocide that we've seen over the past few years, anything that the West says, anything that Western elites say about slaughter and murder is ordinary now. And if they start threatening the people of Venezuela, we have to take it seriously. If they start threatening to slaughter people in the Mediterranean, we have to take it seriously, because the mask has been removed. There's no longer the narrative of human rights or freedom. That is all gone. The West has, the collective West, the elites in the West have gone back to the mid 20th century, the early 20th century, the 19th century, where they've used the language of brute force. I think even it can be said that they've even gone beyond the era of the civilizing mission, and they've gone to the era before the civilizing mission, where it was just sheer brutality and there were no excuses. But the West, this collective West, is much weaker. And I think that the fact that Trump posted the Hamas response, which was developed in coordination with other resistance groups, as uh, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad statement clearly pointed out, it showed that he is not as strong as he pretends, because his expectations and his demands did not coincide with the statement of the Palestinians, with the statement of the resistance that was put out by Hamas. For example, Hamas is clear that someone like Blair, who is a symbol of death and destruction and hypocrisy and dishonesty, it was clear from the Hamas response that Blair would not have any role to play in ruling over the Palestinian people. What the resistance did offer was a negotiation to exchange prisoners, for the Israeli regime to retreat, for the Palestinian areas in Gaza to be rebuilt. That can be discussed. But the resistance did not discuss the nature and future of Palestine itself, let alone Gaza, which is a part of Palestine. So they did not accept any long-term role or any even short-term role imposed by the West in with regards to the governance of Gaza. They accepted a technocratic government if the negotiations go well, which is not clear at all. If there's going to be a breakdown within hours or within days or weeks or months, we don't know at this stage where this will lead. But obviously, by stating that they will accept technocrats, that means this will be a transition period. And obviously, what Hamas is doing, it is saying that at the end of the day, any decision has to be made by the Palestinian people. So Hamas can negotiate over that which it has authority, and that is the prisoners, and that is, of course, the state of the battlefield and the future of peace and war in Gaza. But they will not negotiate the fate of Gaza, because that has to do with the collective Palestinian population. And it goes beyond the mandate of Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad. As one of the previous guests rightly pointed out, we should not at all criticize Hamas. It was a very well crafted statement. It was a rejection of capitulation. It was a sign, ultimately, when Trump posted it, that Trump accepted its validity, and that if we put it alongside Trump's threat, it shows that Trump is not as strong as he claims. The very fact that the Hamas statement was posted was, I think, a major victory. Perhaps a foolish mistake by Trump, not quite understanding what Hamas is saying, and perhaps not. I tend to think that he did not read or understand the text very well. But I think that it was a very well written text. I assume that they received help from their friends, whether in Lebanon or in Yemen or in the Palestinian Islamic Jihad leadership or in Iran, or they sought their advice, and but ultimately it is their text, and all the resistance groups and resistance entities within the axis of resistance have given them their full support. Our responsibility is to do what we've been doing up to now. There's no letting up. The regime is now taking over social media. They're taking over mainstream media, even more than before. So we have to press harder. We cannot become indifferent, because perhaps in the coming days, the number of children murdered, the number of women murdered may decrease. It may or may not decrease. But there may be a tendency for people to think that the situation is now better, so we can go back to our ordinary affairs. In fact, as probably more than one guest, but as one guest quite clearly pointed out, there's a direct link between the fate of the Palestinian people and the fate of all of us. In other countries, the role that the empire is playing at home and the role that its proxies are playing across the global south and across our region, all of these are linked now to the Palestinian cause. We've seen, for example, in the case of Morocco, how people have been rising up both due to social grievances, but also because of the regime's close relationship with the Israeli regime. In order to bring about a better future for ourselves and for our children and for our neighbors and for our fellow human beings, we have to press hard. And now that the empire has shown weakness, I think that if we do not push harder, we've done a great disservice to ourselves and our fellow human beings. Thank you very much.
I'm Michael Hudson. I'm appearing here for the International Manifesto Group. If you like this video and ones like it, please subscribe. For more information, go to the address on the screen.